Hi everyone and welcome to Isamu Rat Care. So today is the day before these guys turn 5 weeks old, and it's a fairly monumental day for them. So shortly I will be loading them into a carrier I have on top of the cage, and they're going on a journey over to Lovecraft Rats with me, where they're going to meet all their some of their siblings, some of their half siblings slash cousins. It gets a little bit complicated in kind of family trees at times. And they're going to end up merged with those litters, and I will bring back one sex. And we haven't decided which yet. We'll have a bit of a think when we're out there with them. And one sex will stay with Lovecraft and be raised in kind of a group there. Last night, Mog went back to the cage. Over the past few days, she's been spending increasing times away from them and back with the cage mates, something she really enjoys. The babies are always very happy to see her, but actually they're not really feeding very much now. They're very hungry and eating all their dry food, but they'll feed for a kind of comfort 30 seconds or so, and actually then they're bored and they want to wander away and eat other things, so they're very much ready. So you tend to wean off at different ages. I've weaned off this litter at, I suppose it's 1 day off 5 weeks. Sometimes I leave it as late as 5.5 weeks. For these babies, or from my line, that's fine. If you're dealing with a line that's completely unknown to you or is fast maturing, you want to be splitting the sexes about 4.5 weeks. And I'm gonna grab a couple babies out and try and show you what we're looking for. Problem is I have to demonstrate with girls, and there's only 2 in this cage, so I have to no, you're a boy, you're a boy. In fact, I'll just quickly show you. Right, how pet shops can get this wrong at this age, I don't know. This is most definitely a boy. Right, come on here, my beauty girl. You are soggy, but it might help. Right, so this is a girl at that age, so you can see there's not much gap there at all, and there's definitely no balls. Right, what I want to show you is, you see this little hole underneath there, and you see how it's clearly sealed shut. So that's her vagina, and girls become sexually mature and kind of ready to mate when that hole opens up. So she's a way off that yet. There's no way that she can be mated and made pregnant. But as soon as that hole opens, in theory, any one of her brothers can do it. To be honest, they're unlikely to do it straight away, but some do. And that's just kind of really important to think on. You want to separate before that happens. And sometimes that can happen as late as 6 weeks. I mean, that's why I could leave out mine comfortably for 5.5 weeks. I start getting twitchy then, to be honest. They're still not opened up, but it's kind of, it feels a little bit close. So you don't want to have a surprise one that develops a little bit faster. How have you got poo on your butt? Right, so here's a buck and a doe. Here's my 2 topaz, buck and a doe. So you can see quite easily there's quite a lot of differences there. And again, she has that little vaginal depression, but again, it's probably not hugely clear here. It's not open. It's more open than her sister's, but it's not open yet. So that's a little mini diddy. But you'll notice here that you can't really make out her nipples very easily. She does have them. She is a girl. But they often don't always show through, and people say, look for the nipples, look for the nipples, but it's not the most reliable kind of guide for them, whereas it's very reliable to look for the balls. In fact, you can distinctly feel that there are balls here, and for that vaginal kind of depression or opening, very easy way to sex them. I'll stick up a picture as well, taken from when a previous litter was 4 weeks old, which is kind of annotated. There is actually also a difference between the kind of nub. If I can find, yes, you're the girl again, and you're a random boy. Girl on this side, boy on this side. You can see that the nub, or the penis in the buck's case, is longer and bigger than the kind of urethra. It's a urethra with the vaginal open underneath on the girl. Right, I can see you escaping. Right, so these are all ready to be separated. They're going to go, what we'll do and what we always do is we'll merge them all together in one big group today, and then we're going out for a little bit, and then we'll come back again, and then we'll kind of split them, have a good look at them, spend a bit of time with them, but they'll have been able to play together as playmates. And at this age, it's like they're just so happy to be with other rats. It's not an introduction, it's a put them in a cage and watch them have a lovely scrap together. One thing I should also point out at this age is you can start to feel their adult coat coming through. So if you notice, this is one of the fosters actually. So you'll be seeing your siblings again. You haven't seen them for many weeks. He's still quite fluffy, but his coat is getting a little bit denser underneath it. Whereas if I grab, I think it's, maybe actually still one. Yeah, more mature one. I'll use you. So here's one of his brothers, and you'll see in places his fur is getting denser. That is his adult coat coming through, and you can really feel it over his shoulders. His bum's still quite fluffy. Escape. But it's definitely there, so this is like quite a critical week for them in terms of development. And there's Beefcake. Beefcake has definitely started with his coat coming through, so probably another week or two they'll start looking like they've got a shiny adult coat. Stop being mean, miss. This is the rat that I'm likely to be keeping, and she's dragging the others around by their butts. This is fairly normal in terms of kitten play, to be entirely honest. It's not a sign that she's an ass. Now she's trying to drag me into play. It's very much, they're just comical at this age. See them drag each other around by the tails, by the skin, by the ears. You best not do it with other people's ears, they might tear yours, bless you. But yes, they're great fun. So, right, I'm going to load these up in their carrier for their journey. I'll probably do a little bit more of a talk tomorrow, and I'm also going to weigh them all at this stage whilst I've got them all for kind of completeness sake, because I don't know who's going to be coming back with me. I want to keep them all. It's definitely at the I want to keep them all stage at the moment. They're such a lovely, lovely group of babies. But we can't, so... And in 2 weeks' time, I'll be desperate for them to go because they'll want more attention than I can give them. But they're such great little rats at the moment. Yes, you are. Right, bye for now. Hi everyone, and welcome to the week 5-week-old babies. So I've already done a little bit of a video yesterday actually, which was on the babies being split. So I have now got half the babies between me and Lisa. So these are a mixture of, these are the girls. These are a mixture of my girls and Lisa's girls. In fact, you may recognise Minnie Diddy here. And we also have, this is also Mog's agouti topper. And then we have 3 new girls. This little girl, you may remember from the week 2 video, stayed with me for a week. So this is the little topaz topper that was so tiny that needed a little bit of extra milk and then went back to her original mum. And then we have, yes, this little agouti topper who has slightly less white on her toes, so quite identifiable. And this little lady who is Lisa's agouti Dumbo. So they're lovely little girls, and I think I've won on this. Lisa has 10 boys, so her hands are substantially more full. And I get the girls to spoil me, which is nice. We quite regularly do this, we merge the kittens, and it's good for their social development to kind of have friends. Otherwise I just have 2 little girls in one group and 4 little boys in another, and it's not quite the same. This way they all get plenty of playmates. Hey sweetheart. Right, so week 5, what happens there? So we've seen about the sex splitting, but in week 5 they gain kind of quite a lot of confidence. They play harder, they kind of spend less and less time with their mum. They become much more developed in themselves. I think I also mentioned that their adult coat starts to come through. It's early days yet, but I think by the middle of next week they will be looking substantially more adult. But yes, they kind of grow a lot more in confidence, as you can see. You're off. Hey, trouble. Diet-wise, they need a fair bit more food now. So between week 4 and week 5, it's the week that they learn to basically start weaning themselves, and some of that's mum and some of it's them. So they'll be eating more and more kind of dry food. So I've been like putting in, for the 9 of them, I've been putting in 2 big handfuls of dry mix and a small handful of kibble every day, well, twice a day, sorry. It'll be less for these girls because clearly there are less of them. And they've also been getting a wet meal every evening, with slightly less dry mix actually in the evening. But that gives a kind of an idea of the sheer amount that kittens eat. When breeders talk about kittens eating them out of half an home, it's true. They eat a massive amount for such little bodies. Yes, so it's very much a case of throwing food at them, making sure they're nice and solid. What's quite nice about these litters is all the babies feel really good. Even like she was tiny and she was quite big, but they're very similar size now, you can see, so they caught up quite well with the extra food and us juggling them around between the mums to give them the kind of best chance possible. So it's very much a week where you need to be aware of that. So when their bodies start shifting onto hard food, this is a time where problems can creep in. So these tend to be kind of digestive related. So it's the first time that their digestive system has been working more independently. So you can see things like diarrhea. You can see in some rats bloating, which can be caused by things like megacolon. You can see some rats will start to fall behind, and that it's a bad time for them to start falling behind because they're not absorbing nutrients properly. That can be due to an infection or something like that, because with weaning comes their immune system having to work for itself for the first time. But other times it can be caused by congenital issues, which not the ear. They're already learning how to be pains. It can be caused by congenital issues, which there's nothing you can do about. So you can see things like heart issues creeping in, where I suppose much like humans they can have a malformed heart and so on, and digestive system issues that are caused by a malformed gut. So it is a week that problems can crop up in, and actually on into the next week as well. It's one that you do want to be fairly careful to keep an eye on them. I mean, there's been no problems with these kittens, but the last time I lost a kitten was, other than in the first week, which is a high risk week, was about 4.5 weeks. And so it's one that I'm very conscious of, and it's horrible to lose them at that age because they are little people in their own right. They kind of like properly got their own little personalities now. We even have some ideas where they may be ending up. It's fairly easy with the girls, to be fair. Between me and Lisa, we'll be keeping all of them. But yes, it's sometimes not quite so easy. But that kind of gives you a bit of a feel. So now is also the kind of time, once we get past this kind of 5-week mark, where we start thinking about potentially where these babies might end up. So me and Lisa had a big kind of get together yesterday, when we were kind of swapping the babies, had a look, had a bit of a think about how many we want to keep, what kind of rats we want to keep, and so on. What I'll do at the next week one, I'll talk you a little bit through what we kind of look for in keepers. In fact, I might even do a separate video in looking at keepers, and though it's somewhat irrelevant with these 5, but it will still tell you the kind of things that you want to look for in kind of future breeding rats. As with the previous weeks, I'm still keeping a good log of if anybody kind of stands out in terms of temperament, and it's literally each week I will kind of not quite start from scratch, but I'll have a kind of highlight which ones have done best the week before and then kind of add up on it. And it's interesting how things can change, and it will be also interesting to see how the little 3 from Lovecraft do with versus mine, because they've been a little bit quieter. However, as soon as they're introduced to mine, they've apparently got a lot bolder very, very quickly, which is quite interesting. So that'll be fun for them. But yes, so we've talked about food. Habitat-wise, things have stayed much the same. I'll probably add some more kind of taller things on free range because they are getting more and more capable, and they are going to have a clean out today. I think I might put the digging box in their cage because they've been enjoying that on free range, and it'll give them something to make a bigger mess with, which will keep us interested. I should say things to also look out at this age. This is the age where if you breed Dumbos, they start getting creases or not getting creases. So you can see, there's a little Dumbo. There. These 2 are looking very good in terms of creases on their ears, which is great. It's also the age where you sometimes start noticing tail kinks. So if you run your fingers along the tail, you can check whether there are any kinks there. We haven't found any yet on this litter, but we will be keeping an eye on it for the next week or 2. It's also worth, if you haven't already started checking the underside to make sure that there's no sneaky Irish markings. That does happen in our family sometimes, but again, none of these have any for me to show you. But that's the kind of thing that you'll be starting noticing about it now if you haven't already noticed it. Some of the developmental stuff takes a little while to come through. But yes, they are really, socialization wise, it's more of the same. So one of the advantage of what we did yesterday, which was I took my babies up to Lisa's. We had a bit of a play in an unfamiliar place for my babies, and then came back and it's an unfamiliar place for Lisa's babies, is they've got to experience travel, and it's something that if you're rehoming your babies to anybody, they will experience too. So it's quite good for them to go on a couple of journeys. I do try and take mine out and about a little bit. They also get to meet new people, which is very important, new sounds and new smells. Anything you can expose them to will help. You've got to make sure it's done in a secure manner, and that they've got kind of some people that they can trust and to kind of rely on in that situation. You can see this little girl's just slightly overwhelmed. Aren't you? Well, you're a sweetheart. But yes, it's very much about kind of teaching them that there's going to be a lot of new smells, there's going to be a lot of new noises, but that's absolutely fine. And you can see now that they've not quite sussed how to get down from here, but are quite happy exploring. They've never been on here before, other than when they were very tiny kittens and couldn't remember anything. And in fact, the ones from Lovecraft have never even been in this room, but they came last night and are now having a happy explore. So it is very much about exposure to new things, and kind of giving them a kind of safe environment to do that in. So that's probably it from me. I think the kind of main recap is more of the same, more exposure to stuff, more kind of everything. Make sure you do split the sexes at an appropriate time. Make sure you kind of check them, so you're not just going on what you thought you knew. You want to more go on how things are now, so it's always worth checking that you have indeed got all girls, which I do. It's if you've not kind of checked recently. But yes, and then also kind of giving them plenty of food, bearing in mind kind of giving that mum time more and more away from them. Some people, to be fair, do keep the mums in with the does, and that's fine. I split them because I want the does to learn to kind of function without mum to a degree. Plus, by that time, often my mums are quite keen to get back to their friends. They miss them. They miss adult company. Their coats are sticky. They're kind of possibly a little bit fat from eating too much baby food. So it doesn't do them a bad thing to go back. But you would leave that if the does were very small and kind of weedy, I would have left her in with them to raise them for longer. Are you okay, miss? Sweetheart. But yes, so it's very much kind of look after the babies, look after mum, enjoy them because they still are a lot of fun. At this stage, both me and Lisa agree we want to keep the babies forever. But it's kind of it's a lovely kind of time to spend with them and to experience them. And then roll on to week 6 when we're getting closer and closer to them going to their new homes, bless them. So over and out for me and the babies for now.